You're listening to the 40 Thrive Podcast, the show created for women 40 and beyond, ready to shake things up. And now, your host, Jackie McDougall.
Welcome back to 40 Thrive. December is here. The holidays, they're officially happening. I hope you had an amazing Thanksgiving surrounded by, a couple of people. It's such a weird year, isn't it? So let me ask you this. Are you going to take on the holidays like every other year? Is it crazy? Is it chaotic? Or are you actually taking the opportunity to maybe slow down and not take on so much? I personally am going with the latter. I think we're actually going to skip our outside lights this year. I know, I'm living on the edge over here. But if 2020 has taught us anything, it's all about prioritizing, right? And putting in the effort where it makes an impact and letting go of some of those things that really aren't necessary. Every year, most women I know, myself included, do all the cooking and cleaning and shopping, wrapping, baking, gift giving. Oh my gosh, the list gets longer every year. But I'm just not doing it this year. I'm not. My annual Christmas Eve shindig isn't even happening. Instead, we're going to do a quiet family dinner. We're only taking out half the holiday decorations, maybe do a tree, a few lights, but nothing crazy. And I really, really want to focus on what's important, just each other. I'm not really sure I can pull it off without getting sucked into the crazy, but I'm going to try. And I'm not the only one who feels like this. 40 Thrive is partnering with Kindra. You maybe heard about them in the last episode with their CEO. The folks at Kindra know that women over 40 take on a lot of the holiday prep. They're reminding us to take time to take care of ourselves. What's that saying? Before we can gift others, we need to gift ourselves. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. While Black Friday may be over at this point, you can still get 20% off Kindra's products, all created for your menopause symptom support. There's the vaginal lotion, total game changer. When used daily, it dramatically improves dryness in your most intimate areas. Then there's the sleep enhancing supplement that's completely changed my life. And if you need a pick-me-up, you can try the energy boosting supplement, or you could try the core dietary supplement that helps with hot flashes, night sweats, mental clarity, and all the things that are holding you back from feeling like yourself. To get 20% off, visit ourkindra.com. There's a link here in the show notes, and be sure to use promo code 40Thrive20. That's FORTY Thrive and the number 20. And don't forget, we are giving away the entire Kindra product suite. Oh, that was my inner Oprah right there. Oh, you get a Kindra and you get a Kindra. A $170 value. And don't forget, we're giving away the whole Kindra product suite. It's worth $170. It includes all of the things I mentioned above, and it will change you. Visit 40thrive.com/episode 84 to enter. That's 40thrive.com/episode 84 to enter. Seriously, this is a gift that will keep on giving. You'll thank me later. Trust. All right, let's get into today's episode. One of the reasons I love December is that it's the perfect time to prioritize and plan for what you want in the new year. I don't know anyone who doesn't want to start and live the year in a strong financial position, right? Katie Chen Mazzara is here to help. She's a certified financial coach, graduate of UC Berkeley's personal finance planning program. She used to be a journalist, TV producer, and award-winning documentary filmmaker. Yes, she worked on The Bachelor for a bunch of years, and so she understands the balance between dreaming and doing. She helps creative freedom seekers make more, worry less, and achieve financial freedom so they can create the life they truly want to live. Doesn't that sound like a dream? It's actually a reality. Before we dive into our chat, I want to share this. If you're a freelancer, a business owner, entrepreneur, creative type, Katie has something awesome coming up that you'll want to check out. Her free Masterclass, 6 awesome ways to create true financial freedom, will help you obliterate money blocks, manifest abundance, set a financial foundation, and spend consciously so you never regret a purchase again. That would be so nice. But the thing I love most is Katie's not one of those don't enjoy life, save every penny types. She is masterful in combining the practical with the purposeful. Did I mention the masterclass is absolutely free? Yep. There's a link in the show notes or at 40thrive.com/episode 84. Imagine kicking off the new year coming from a place of financial empowerment. If you need a little bit of help in this area, you are not alone. Okay, are you ready to meet Katie? Here's my conversation with Katie Chen Mazzara. Katie, welcome to 40 Thrive.
Nice to be here, Jackie.
You and I both come from a similar background with television, reality, or unscripted, but you actually worked on The Bachelor, yes?
Yes, I worked on The Bachelor for about 5 years, actually.
We could do a whole episode just on that.
Yes, we could.
But we won't. So how do you go from reality TV, you're in the thick of it, long hours, lots going on, to becoming a certified financial coach?
Yeah, so there are two ways that I kind of got into it. First of all, with television producing, it was like we were freelance, right? And after my first show ended, I was kind of like, how do people do this? Like, how do you manage your money when your income is so inconsistent? How do you not worry about like whether or not you're going to get the next gig? And then how do you just even manage to do all of the things that people tell you to do, like pay off your debts and save money and save for retirement when your income is inconsistent? So I started reading all the books and found myself like fascinated by it and really interested in it. And then like friends and colleagues would always ask me questions, and they were always like, how do you not worry? How are you saving? How did you buy your first home all by yourself?
Right.
All of these things. So I started to get certified in it. And then the other part about it is a little bit more personal. One is after I turned 40, I was like, I don't really want to work these kinds of hours anymore. It doesn't bring me the same kind of joy that we had given me in the past. And then the other part is that I've known 3 women in my life that actually stayed in abusive relationships because of money.
Wow.
And I really, really, really want to empower everyone to start to make decisions not based off of money.
Right.
And so it's really important to me to help people to figure that part out in their lives, to make it so much easier. And then they don't have to think about it and worry about it. And then they can make decisions based off of their core values, based on their purpose, based off of what they really want to achieve in their life.
That's really powerful. And I have seen many financial quote unquote experts. Many of them are in that budget space. It stresses me out a little bit. And then on the other side, you have the manifesting and the money mindset. And you, miraculous one, bring it all together. So you've got a little bit of that woo-woo, which I love, like with the mindset, with manifesting, but also making really intelligent choices that can help you live a life without so much stress. How do you merge those two worlds?
I always tell people I'm not woo-woo, I'm just woo.
One woo, lil woo-woo.
One woo. Because I do believe that with money, there needs to be some very practical work, because money is of this earth. Money is something that us as humans came up with as a currency. And so if you only have the vision boards and you only have the manifesting, those kinds of things, it doesn't actually apply in the same way. You can do it. And I think that vision boards are great to give you kind of a focus and clarity. However, if you're also just sort of sitting around waiting for it to happen and like a bunch of money dropping into your lap, it's just not going to happen. And then the second thing is I went back to school and did a personal financial planning program through UC Berkeley. Combining that financial planning side with the money mindset side is really important to me, because one doesn't operate like the other, right? And if you're only concentrating also on the numbers side, then you can get yourself into the same habits. I've seen this over and over again, right? Like somebody will come to me and say, oh, I paid down my debts like 5 years ago and now I'm back in it. Now I'm back in it even more so. Well, that's because, you haven't really worked with kind of the internal issues or the internal struggle that you may have had, and that created that want to buy more things continuously in the first place. Or circumstances in life may have happened and you may not have been able to manage it in a healthy, habit-driven environment.
Yeah, because you see even people who win the lottery, right? They could win millions and millions of dollars and then they're just as broke, if not more, after.
Yes.
So if you're not prepared, yeah.
Right.
And so TV is not the only industry that's very feast or famine. I asked in the 40 Thrive community what some of the greatest money challenges are right now. And that's really one of them, whether it's due to COVID or not. There are women in there who have had a loss of income or a change, a fluctuation of income. What's your philosophy on managing your money when the income changes?
Okay, there's two answers to that. So one, like during COVID and during times of crises, right, it's really, really, really important that you kind of start to create more of an expansiveness for yourself rather than a shrinking down. Most of us want to shrink down. Most of us want to say, okay, now I'm not going to spend on anything. Now I'm not going to go out to dinner with my friends.
Right.
When we could go to dinner with friends.
Yes. Remember what that was like?
Right. All of those things, right? But instead, it's like, where can you create more expansiveness, right? So one of the things that I teach clients is like, well, go in and look at your the bills that have recurring monthly and actually call them and say, hey, I'm having these different circumstances. What can you do? What can you help me with? Right. And ask for help. Like, it's so, so important for us to ask for help. And I think that, all of the grants that have happened during COVID, that's a great way to bring in some income. Definitely take advantage of unemployment if you are not employed. I hear this so many times and I'm so baffled by it sometimes, is that they're like, well, I still have some savings, so I don't want to get into unemployment. Well, you've paid into unemployment.
Right.
You've been paying into unemployment all this time. So it's really your money. And if this isn't the time for you to take advantage of it when you don't actually have as much income coming in, then when is the time for you to take advantage of that? So really look at places where you can expand. Look at places where you can bring in some income, right? Or reduce some of those expenses. And reducing those expenses, not in a way of shrinking down, not in a way of like, okay, now I can't do anything and I'm not going to spend any money, right? But in a way that it's like, okay, how can somebody else help me to create more expansiveness?
Right. And that sounds so great. But I think a lot of people, when you're feeling fearful, or when one is feeling fearful about not having work, like you said, or maybe unemployment is running out or whatever it is, do you have any exercises that you teach specifically to sort of get back into that abundant, expansive place?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is clarity, right? Just write down for yourself, like, what is really coming in, what's going out, and then also where can you find other sources of income? Because the thing is, our minds tend to worry about the stuff that we don't know about, right? The fear of the unknown. And so just by simply writing it down and seeing it like a reality, a real picture of it, is going to help your brain to calm down.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And you're doing a process of brainstorming for yourself as well to creatively come up with some ideas of how you can create some income for yourself.
Right. And what are some creative ways you've been seeing your clients and students bring in income in 2020?
Well, I've definitely seen a lot of people get those grants and even some amazing loans. Like I heard from one person who I think got a SAG-AFTRA loan from the Actors Fund that was like 1%.
Wow.
Yeah. And they didn't have to start paying it back until next year. So for a full year, they got that money without any interest. And then they didn't have to start paying it back, right? And that's incredible. And at first she didn't even want to take it. She was like, should I take it? I'm not sure. I don't want to owe anybody anything. I'm not in debt right now. And I was like, take it, because think about it this way. It's like, even if you put it into the bank and saved it, you're going to have enough interest to actually start paying it back.
Right.
You know? Yeah, like that's such a good way of looking at it. And the other way that I've seen clients do this is they really tap into their zone of genius and start looking at, okay, can I create some income from that zone of genius, whether it is through helping somebody else through coaching, or if it's something that they're very crafty at making. You know, I've seen people like expand into t-shirt designs and artwork, you know, prints, those kinds of things, right? And so, and making masks. I've seen other people make masks and start selling their beautifully designed masks. And so it's really great to actually create that kind of additional income for yourself that you may not have thought about.
Right. I love that. And there are so many things out there that people are needing more of right now. I've heard some people like, I don't want to take advantage. Well, if there's a need, they're going to buy it from someone. Why wouldn't it be you? But can we dive a little bit more deeply into this whole, I shouldn't take the money, I shouldn't take the, you know, the unemployment. Like, I see that a lot, especially with women. We're so afraid that if we protect ourselves or take care of ourselves, that someone else, maybe it's this, but someone else won't get it. Do you see that a lot?
Oh, I see that all the time. And you're right. It's mostly women who, although there are some men I see also feeling that way, but mostly women. And I think there is this prevailing kind of feeling that women are sort of, you know, you need to be asked to kind of, you know, you need to be asked to join the table. You need to be asked to do the things that you really want to do, rather than let me just take it and, you know, and do it. Right.
Right.
And I think that with that energy, it's really about an internal, like, feeling of deservability. Like, do you feel like you really deserve to have the things that you really want without even being asked, right? It's like also with getting paid like a certain rate. I think one of my clients said this, and I love this, but I may say it wrong. She talked about not allowing someone else to tell you your value, right? Mm-hmm. And really standing up for yourself in terms of you get to tell somebody else what your value is.
Yeah. I've had this conversation, this value conversation so many times. We tie it to our personal value, and money is not an exchange of your personal value. Otherwise, you'd be making billions, right? Because we're all very valuable. It's an exchange of the value you're giving versus what you're receiving. And I think if we sort of break it down and make it that simple, we tie so much emotion to money and our worthiness and all of that stuff. So I'm really excited that you tackle that in, you know, I know you have an upcoming masterclass that we're going to talk about, but, you know, you really tackle that side of that money mindset. Where did that come from? Especially with women. Where did we get this thing that we're not supposed to, like that rich people are a certain way, or if I have money, this will make me this, or where does that come from?
Well, I mean, it's definitely generational, you know, and how the overall society feels about money and people who have money, but it also comes from our childhood is what I believe too, right? Like as children, we observe and absorb what our parents, grandparents, friends, relatives, you know, they all say and do, rather than what somebody is directly teaching us, right? So, and most of us aren't even taught about money. Most of us don't even hear a word.
Oh yeah. It was so private. My dad, okay, I'm one of 13 kids, just so you know, right? Yeah. And we would go down to Disney World. I grew up in Massachusetts. We would drive down in an RV every year to Disney World for like 2 weeks. You know, he was the only one bringing in the income. I don't understand. Like, he clearly was brilliant with money, and yet he never said a word. Do you find, especially with our generation of women over 40, that we just weren't taught?
Right. I hear this all the time. I actually hear so much that, when people do sign up with me, they're like, I'm finally doing it. And I stopped myself from doing it for so long because I think I should know this already.
Mm. And how could we know it if no one taught us?
Exactly. Nobody teaches this stuff, right? And I think it should be taught in schools. I think a basic finance class should be taught in schools. I mean, it's probably more practical than learning algebra or
you think? I have 3 teenage boys and I see it all the time where I'm like, why are they not teaching you, basic skills? Now, what was your upbringing like? Did you have any education in money, or was it kind of secretive there too?
No. So that's my money story, is like my grandmother, my dad's mother, was very wealthy actually. And she actually owned a lot of real estate in Taiwan, which is like a small island like Manhattan. So real estate's very valuable there. Mm-hmm. But she was very stingy with it. She was so controlling and very just thought money was way more important than people. And then there was one day where she came out of our guest bedroom and said, I think somebody stole my money. She had kept some cash, I guess, underneath her mattress that I don't know. No one knew about that.
Right.
And then she said it was all gone. And we spent the whole day looking for her money. And to this day, I still don't know what happened to it. But in my mind, what I got was, oh my gosh, money is so important to her. Money's more important to her than people. And I don't ever want to be that way. And so in my 20s, and even before my teens and 20s, I just was like, okay, I'm going to make money not important. And so I was spending it left and right. I was like, I went to school in New York, and I was taking cabs everywhere. Like, what college student takes cabs everywhere?
Right. A wealthy one.
And I wasn't wealthy. I wasn't, because she never gave us anything. Mm-hmm. It's just, that was my mentality around it. And not until I really figured out, okay, well, what do I really want money to mean in my life?
Right.
And when I really wanted it to mean more about freedom and freedom of choice,
yes,
then I was able to switch that and be able to manage my money in a different way, instead of just either giving it away or spending it all on frivolous stuff.
Right. And that's the exact word that I use when I think about money, is freedom. Freedom to have experiences, but also freedom to make an impact with, nonprofits or even my kids' school or whatever it is. Having that extra money, it feels good because you are able to make a difference in a variety of ways. And that whole mentality that being wealthy or being a negative is just, we really have to smash all of that because we see somebody with a specific car or in a house or whatever, and we make this crazy judgment of them as if they don't care about anything else. Like you're talking about your grandmother, she had behavior that made you believe that. But to see somebody who drives by you in $100,000 car, how is it on us to determine who that person is and what their views are on the world?
Right. And the thing is, it's just holding you back.
Yes.
That's what you want.
It doesn't hurt them.
Right. It definitely doesn't hurt them.
They're like beep, beep, waving, they're fine. So that's absolutely, it hurts us. And so let's go back to, you said something right in the beginning about women who have stayed in abusive relationships. My community is almost 3,000 women over 40. I'm sure there are some who are in circumstances that I can't even imagine, or we can't imagine, but I'm sure there are some who just feel, based on conversations I've had, that they just don't have the freedom to make choices that are best for them given their financial situation. How do you coach someone through that?
Well, we start from the very beginning. We have to set a foundation for it, right? To look at what that really means. Because a lot of times what we think it means, like if we think, oh, I don't have any room in my life for this. I've got kids, I've got, this stuff that I have to take care of, and that all of these things I have to take care of. And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I don't have any money. When in reality, what I found is there's always room for different things. It's just about what do you really value? What do you really care about? And to start to spend on the things that you really value and stop spending on the things that you don't.
Right.
Like
what is that when we spend money on things that we don't even care about?
Well, there's a variety of reasons. I mean, one is like, okay, well, all of my friends have this, right? Like when I worked on a show that was about fashion and beauty, like every single woman that worked on that show, like we shopped all the time.
Yeah.
And it was just and on things that I didn't even think I wanted, but everybody on the show, all the other producers bought a new pair of Pumas. I'm going to buy that new pair of Pumas. We all look the same, right? We were all wearing our pink Pumas.
Your reality TV uniform.
Yes, exactly. So it's that. It's also about, I had a friend telling me that, she didn't know why she was going through Starbucks every single day after work. After a hard day's work, she would go through a Starbucks drive-through and buy herself a big old Frappuccino. And what happens is that she just had a bad day, right? It was a horrible, like the work was getting to her. And so the one way to make herself feel better at the end of the day was to go through the drive-through and buy herself that Frappuccino. And then instantly it just felt comforting. So that's like, we're reaching for things that feel comforting in the same way that food does that for some.
Yes. I was going to make that comparison too. I think when you have one behavior, maybe it's you turn to food, you turn to spending, or you turn to other, maybe having that second glass of wine, or, we tend to have this mentality that I deserve it. I deserve this piece of cake. I deserve this glass of wine. I deserve this purchase that maybe you don't even care about. So I love the mindfulness angle of that. So some of these women though, who feel like they don't have a choice aren't necessarily spending on the Pumas, right? But they're in a situation, maybe they don't have control of the money, or they believe they're not able to make additional income. Do you see a lot of that where they sort of feel trapped by their lack of choices because of the lack of money?
I see it in the beginning of the work that I do with clients, because to me, it's actually a very limiting belief. I'll tell you a quick story is that, when I worked with this one client, she came to me and that was basically how she felt, that she was very limited by the amount of money she was making. And then she was starting to look at other jobs and those kinds of things. And then finally got a position at a pretty big media company. When I worked with her on negotiating her rate, they told her, this is the maximum rate we're giving you. Like, we don't even want to negotiate. We really like you. We're going to give you this amount. And then after she and I worked together, they actually increased it by $5,000. They were going to give her like a signing bonus, essentially. However, I was like, well, I think there's more that we can get out of it. And she said, I don't know. I think they're annoyed at me. So I'm going to just take it, right? And I said, well, why do you feel that they're annoyed at you? And she showed me the email. And when I read the email, I didn't think anything of the sort. Instead, I thought the opposite.
Really?
I thought the email to me said, we really value you. We don't want you to go anywhere else. And so we hope that this amount is good for you, this $5,000. And so once I realized it's really about her own limiting beliefs and her own self-worth, feelings of self-worth, then we started working on that. And really what I realized is that they were actually putting her at a lower level than they should have. And so we went back and she negotiated for this higher level and got $17,000 more than what they originally had said.
Wow.
Yeah. so many times when we think we don't have enough money, it's really just about how we feel about it and not in reality. Because I also had a client who lives in France. She's an artist. She doesn't make very much, right? She makes like, I don't know, less than 30,000 a year or something. Mm-hmm. And yet she feels like she lives like a queen. She's, she lives in a beautiful part of France, beautiful home, all of these things. And she feels abundant and rich and wealthy. And her lifestyle is really awesome and beautiful. So it's not about really how much money you're making. It really isn't.
Right.
Yeah.
I think right now the fear of the unknown, that we don't know how things are going to change and when they're going to change. So would you recommend, as far as like someone is working a steady job right now, they're bringing home the check, maybe not the check that they want. Would you recommend that they just stay there and keep plugging away and making the money? Or do you think this is an okay time to ask for more or to make a leap or to do something different?
I think this is a perfect time. If you're not happy, it's a perfect time to make the leap and do what you really love to do and you're passionate about. This is what this pandemic has done, I think. That is actually a really good thing, is like it's starting to have us look at what's really important in our lives.
Right.
And to slow down, right? To slow things down so much that we actually start to say, okay, well, here's what I don't miss. So let me take that out of my life.
Right.
And what do I really want? And do I want to keep going on that rat race? Or do I want to create a different life for myself?
Right. And in many industries, there needs to be innovation.
Yes.
I've seen restaurants who now sell fresh produce because they still were getting it from their vendors, but they couldn't necessarily cook it and sell it enough. And so they just started selling fresh eggs and farm and vegetables and things like that. I don't know enough about that industry, but I see a lot of industries really pivoting and being able to shift. I think it's when we dig our heels in and we think, I'm just going to wait it out, and knowing that things are never going to be the same. And I don't mean that they're going to be exactly the way they are right now, but so many things are shifting. I mean, commercial real estate, I can't even imagine. So I know someone who is a commercial real estate mogul. She's been on the episode, on the podcast, Denisha. I'll have to link to the episode in the show notes, but she now runs an Amazon company. I don't even know the details of it, but she's got like a bunch of trucks. She knew that things were going in a certain way. And so she invested in another area that she could be successful in. We're always told to follow our passion. Do you think that you can actually make a living in some way, shape, or form following our passion?
I do.
No matter what it is?
No matter what it is. And I see it over and over again. I have clients who are actors, who, and thinking about actors, I mean, during the pandemic, all the shows were shut down, that kind of thing.
Right.
And yet many of my actors have actually made more money during this pandemic than they did even last year.
And how did they do that?
There's still stuff happening now. Like once things started rolling, they started to book more commercials. We talked about negotiating. And at first it was scary.
Right. Yes.
Because they were like, well, should I be negotiating during a pandemic? Shouldn't I just be grateful that I have a job that I love? And I was like, well, yes, you should be grateful, but those two things don't need to go together, right? If you're grateful, it doesn't also mean you can't ask for more money.
Right.
And what I've seen is over and over again is that people still are giving more money during this time. And so you've got to get beyond your own fears to ask for it. Right. And asking is the number one tool of negotiation, I got to say, because I've never experienced a time when a boss is like, you're doing such a great job, I'm just going to give you an extra $10,000.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they're looking at their budget. And so they may have it in there earmarked, but if you're not going to ask for it, how will you ever know?
Right.
I have a friend who was working overtime. Jobs right now, like a lot of people are sort of working from home and maybe not as busy as they were. And then other times things pick up, right? So I had a friend who she wasn't working all that much for her job, but then she had to work, 5 days in a row and 2 of them being the weekend. She said, I don't want to put in for overtime because on other days I don't work all that much. And I said, right, but you have to be available on those other days. So you are working and now you're doing overtime. You should absolutely put in for the overtime. But it's just so funny. It goes back to that whole, like, I don't want to create waves, as if someone's going to say like, oh, you put in for time that you actually worked, you're fired.
Right.
But it's just so interesting. So I think that mindset is so key. So let's talk about the work that you're doing. You have something coming up in 2021 that sounds amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, I'm so excited about this. I'm creating a membership for people, for creatives, essentially, called the Financial Freedom for Creatives Club. And it's a 12-month membership. So each month I'm going to do training on a financial topic. And then I'm giving you some action guides, very simple actions to take during that month. And then I'm going to give you a Q&A session so we can answer all of your personal financial questions. And then I'm going to also offer a hot seat coaching so we can coach through any money blocks that you may have, or a negotiation session. Like, let's say you're negotiating for a higher rate on a new job, then we're going to work through that with you as well. And so basically you have a financial advisor, coach, mentor throughout this next year, so that by the end of next year, you're going to have your finances taken care of. You're going to be able to pay down your debts. You're going to have the right amount in savings, not much more. And you're going to be able to learn how to invest your money so that it can grow faster for you and it can create more of an income and get you to like the retirement that you want or buying that house that you want, all of those goals.
Yeah, I love that so much because, working as a freelancer, I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I have my own coaching. And by the way, I love something you said earlier, like everybody out there, if you're listening right now, you know something more than the next person that you can teach or coach. It just is. I don't care if it's like baking a cake or podcasting like I do, or homeschooling or whatever it is. There are people who need your help. So please, think about that, brainstorm those ideas. But you're talking about this membership. One of the things that makes me a little bit crazy is when there are online programs out there that are like, I can help you get your money together and all of that good stuff. It's only going to be $3 million per month. So I like that you have this membership program that helps people, but at a place where they can just, pay monthly and, invest in themselves, but not go broke trying to learn this stuff. It's sort of like counterproductive when you have to go into debt to learn about money.
Right. Yes, that does make sense for sure. Yeah, I'm always going to keep my rates reasonable just because of that, because I want way more people to really learn about this for themselves. And you can hand your money over to a financial advisor and they can do it all for you. You're going to pay a lot more.
Right.
And then also you're still not going to feel internally, you're not going to feel great about it. You're not going to know, how your money is being managed. You're not going to know all of the things to actually transform your mindset around feeling good about your finances and feeling that freedom. And
right.
That's what I really want to help people with as well. So you're getting both the practical and the spiritual.
Right. I love the combination. We talk about as entrepreneurs hiring people to do specific jobs. Even in podcasting, I hire out an editor and I have a lot of students who hire out in a variety of ways, but I am a firm believer in you understanding the process. You don't have to know step 1 through 10, but you do have to have an idea of how it unfolds, right? And so to give your money to a financial planner when you don't really understand the process is dangerous. And I'm not saying anyone's shady, but I'm sure there are shady people out there. But you got to know where you're putting your money, don't you think?
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's why things like the Bernie Madoff thing happens, right?
Yes.
Like certain people just say, oh, well, he should know more than I should know about my money. Well, no, nobody knows more about you and your money than you.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing as your body. Nobody knows more about your body than you.
Yep.
Like, you can go to a doctor, but that doctor still doesn't know as much as you know about your own body. And then a financial expert is still not going to know as much about you and your money as you would. And so this year is that exploration as well, is to really know yourself and know where your money is, like know what your goals are, know what your values are, and know how to spend towards those values as well.
Right. I mean, you see that with celebrities. You work with creatives, you work with actors. A manager will come in and they'll take care of all the money. And then the next thing you know, we hear about these people who make multi-millions of dollars and they no longer have any money because they trusted someone. So I think it's really important. I love the work you're doing. So that starts in January. People can start registering for that in December. But let's talk about the free live masterclasses that you're doing.
Yeah. So I'm going to take people through the 6 steps to financial freedom in this masterclass. And we're going to help you to learn, like, setting a foundation. What does a financial foundation really look like? Mm-hmm. And how do you get there? We're going to talk about expansion and, getting out of that feast or famine mode. Like, how do you get out of that? There is a very simple way of getting out of feast or famine mode and getting into this feeling of abundance. Mm-hmm. Right? Also, we want to talk about what are your values? Where do you want to go with those values? And how to consciously spend rather than mindlessly spending.
Right. It's so easy, especially with credit cards and Amazon and online shopping is just a click away, especially going into the holidays. We tend to do that.
Yeah. And then all this stuff is happening, right? Like all the holiday spending, Cyber Monday, all that.
Yes.
It's so easy to just click a button on your phone and then everything's already programmed. You don't have to think about putting in your credit card anymore.
Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. And I even noticed, like, for myself, talk about being mindful. Historically, I'm a procrastinator. I've gotten so much better at that in the past few years. But with holidays, I started sooner and I was so proud of myself that I bought my gifts. But I love getting caught up in the spirit of Christmas and giving and finding a gift that somebody might love, that I discovered that I spend more money when I start earlier. And so for me, I'm going to wait until, mid-December and do all of my shopping. And that way I can kind of get hopefully still the free shipping, but further on into December so I don't overspend. Like, that's just me. So really understanding yourself and your spending habits, I think, is really important.
That is so right on, because if you start to see a pattern like that, like, if I start spending earlier, it may make me feel good that, like, I got my list checked off. Right. However, I'm spending way more money.
Exactly. If I start now, Katie, you'll get 3 gifts for the holidays instead of 1, which may be good for you, but it's not as good for my bank account. That's awesome. So what is the live masterclasses? What is that called?
It's called the 6 steps to financial freedom.
Awesome. I cannot wait. I'm going to link to that in the show notes. Great. So everybody can go over there. And that one is absolutely free, right? The 6 steps?
Absolutely free. Yes. And what's so cool is I'm going to offer a prize, like a drawing for everybody who shows up. You'll get entered into a drawing to actually get a membership into the Financial Freedom for Creatives Club.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. And then my final question, what is a creative, like, what does that fall under? I mean, I know people who automatically will go, I'm not creative. So what kinds of jobs would fall under that?
To me, being creative just means you create something that wasn't there before.
Right.
So it can be food, it can be your home decor, it can be painting and art and music and all of those things that we traditionally think of as creative. But I also wanted people to think about it as, if you have an inconsistent income, you don't have that traditional 9-to-5 job per se, right? Then this is really the program for you. Yeah. Of course, if you have a 9-to-5 job, you'll still get a lot out of this. However, the people who don't have that consistent income, there's nowhere else that you're going to find this information. And no one else, I think, that like really has lived this lifestyle of that inconsistent income, right? So I combine that. I combine it with my own experiences of not having a regular 9-to-5 job. And then, of course, my expertise in finance.
I just wanted to clear that up because I had a feeling that your program would fit so many different types and not just people who identify with calling themselves a creative. But if you're an entrepreneur, if you're self-employed, if you're a freelancer, gig economy, this could even be helpful for those who are Uber or Lyft drivers or other people who have these service-based businesses. I think it's so important, especially as women over 40, we're looking to clean things up and have a better, simpler, streamlined life right now. But also the future's not so far away. Growing up, it was like retirement was the pension and the 40 years at the same job and all of that. And that's not what life looks like.
No,
and
that's what I just wrote about this past week on my blog. And
you did?
Yes, I just wrote exactly this. I was like, yeah, what I've heard, right? I don't know this for sure, but what I've heard is in the past, you work at the same job your whole entire life, you get a pension at the end of it. And then at 55, 60 or 65, and maybe a gold watch too.
Right. And a plaque.
Right. And in my lifetime, I have never heard of that. And most people I know do not have a pension or even a possibility of getting a pension. I only know maybe 1 or 2 people that have that possibility. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's also this old-fashioned way of thinking that the only way to have financial certainty is through a job.
Right. Say that again. That's worth repeating.
Yeah. I think it's a myth that the only way to have financial certainty is to get a job.
Yeah. There's just so many opportunities out there. And I also, on the flip side, believe that we have a false sense of security when we do have a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I have a staff job. Everything's great. I'm going to be here for the next 20 years. It doesn't always work that way.
No, because I had staff jobs. I had staff jobs when I was in development and even before when I was a journalist, and I got laid off from those jobs as well. So I think that in this day and age, it's really about understanding your own value and banking on yourself.
Understanding your own value and banking on yourself. Yes. And that's step number 1.
Yes.
So if you learn nothing else from this episode, that is step 1. So I will link to all of the things that you're doing, Katie. I love it, especially coming from the same type of industry and background where one month you're going out to dinner multiple times and you're having a good time. And the next one you're like, oh, shh. And you're not talking about budgeting and nickel and diming and not having an abundant lifestyle. That's what I love about it.
Yeah. I don't even believe in budgeting.
You don't? No. Oh my God, we should have started with that. You don't believe in budgeting?
No, I think budgeting is like a diet. You can do it for a couple of months and then it's like, I can't do this anymore. It's not sustainable. And it's also very challenging when your income is inconsistent.
Right.
It doesn't mean that I don't think that you should be tracking and knowing what those numbers are. And that's one of the things I'm going to teach you in that 6 Steps to Financial Freedom free webinar, free masterclass. But I think the idea of budgeting is rooted a little bit also in scarcity.
Yes. And we cannot live in scarcity.
No.
This is amazing. I could talk to you for a few more hours. I could go into multiple streams of revenue. I'm going to have you come back because I want to talk about that. Like there are so many opportunities out there to bring in income in a variety of different ways, but we all have this like fixed mindset that it has to come from a specific source as opposed to all these different areas. Will you come back and talk about that?
100%.
Awesome. Katie, thank you so much.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. It's so fun.
Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to head on over to 40thrive.com/episode 84 to enter to win the full Kindra product suite. You will be feeling more like yourself in no time. Take care and keep thriving.